Hey Silas, here's your Mimi, and I'm back with one of my favorite books. When I was a kid, the Berenstain Bears were really big. I mean, that was a big, big thing. I actually have a few of them left over too. They're the Berenstain Bears books are written by Stan and Jan Berenstain, and there's a whole bunch of them, kind of like Pete the Cat books. This one is called The Berenstain Bears in the Dark. And it's always a big story about them. So this one's a good bit longer, but it's a good story. I'm going to turn that a little bit. There we go. Okay. It says right here at the beginning, being afraid of the dark doesn't just happen to you. It happens sometimes to little bears too. Here they are. They're all in a public library. Brother Bear, said Sister impatiently, are you going to take all day to pick your books? Sister and Brother Bear were at the Bear Country Library. Sister had already chosen her books and was waiting at the checkout desk. Hold your horses, said Brother. I'm looking for a good mystery. And there they are, picking out their books. There's Sister Bear and there's Brother Bear. Sister Bear usually took out storybooks and books about nature, and sometimes books of poems. Brother liked those too, but lately he'd become interested in mysteries, especially spooky ones. And Sister Bear's just waiting. There goes the crinkly carrot again. This time it's Munch, though. And there's Brother Bear looking for books. Hey, this one looks good, he said finally. Okay, let's check out. Said Sister, looking at the cover. It was called The Case of the Crying Cave. It looks scary to me. Say, this is really good, said Brother later that evening, when the Bear family had settled down for some reading. Would you like me to read it to you? He asked Sister. Sister was looking at a storybook about 3 kittens who were arguing about which was the prettiest, and it was a little boring. So it looks like the whole family sits down to read. There's Papa Bear, Mother Bear, Sister Bear, and Brother Bear. So she's reading a kitten book, and she thinks it's boring. So Brother Bear wants to read his story to her. He says, are you scared? Teased Brother. Of course not, said Sister. She left her book on the floor and climbed onto the bench to sit beside him. The mystery began quietly. It told about some Bear Scouts who were on an overnight campout. There they are on the bench together. Here's some pictures from the book he's reading. I don't know, it looks kind of scary. It says, when the scouts discovered a dark, secret cave, Brother's mystery began to get a little exciting. And when the cave began to cry and wail, it was anything but quiet. Ooh, cried the deep, dark, mysterious cave, read Brother with a lot of expression. Ooh, stop, said Sister, putting her fingers in her ears. That's enough. And then she went back to her storybook. Scaredy bear, teased Brother. And that's quite enough of that, added Papa Bear, looking up from his paper. I think Sister Bear was really frightened. At the cubs' bedtime, Papa and Mama said good night, turned off the light, and left the cubs in the usual sleepy darkness. That looks nice. See, they live in a big tree. Their house is inside the trunk. Isn't that cool? They got stairs going up and windows everywhere. And their bedrooms are up here. And they are in bunk beds. Outside the treehouse, the bright, busy sounds of day had given way to the soft, soothing sounds of night, the quiet conversations of frogs and toads, the soft cry of the owl, the sigh of the night wind. And if you listened very hard, you could almost hear the softest sound of all, the sound of lightning bugs switching their lights on and off, on and off. And look at all the critters. And there's the fireflies. There they are in their bunk beds late. But Sister Bear does not look too happy. I think she's a little scared still. But inside the treehouse, Sister Bear wasn't even beginning to fall asleep. That night, the dark didn't seem the least bit quiet and sleepy. In fact, it seemed like the spooky darkness of a scary cave. And the friendly old chest of drawers and funny clothes tree that Papa had made didn't seem so friendly and funny. They seemed more like mean cave creatures. So when Brother decided to tease her a little more by making a wailing sound, a really spooky wailing sound, it gave her quite a scare. "Mama, Papa," she cried, "hurry, come quick." Poor baby. And come quickly they did. Papa rushed into the dark tree and tripped over the clothes tree. Papa rushed in after Papa and tripped over him. In the commotion, Sister fell out of bed and landed on both of them. Then Brother, who had started it all, with his spooky wail, turned on the light. What a mess! Sister, who was still scared, was holding on to Papa. Papa was holding on to the toe he had stubbed, and Mama was looking for her nightcap she had lost in the confusion. All three of them were pretty annoyed with Brother Bear. And here they are. They're falling all over the place. And there they are with the lights on. Brother Bear looks like he knows he's in trouble. It turned out to be a very long night in the bear's treehouse. Papa and Mama tried to explain that there was nothing to be afraid of in the dark, except maybe running into a clothes tree and stubbing your toe, but it didn't do any good. And there they are trying to cheer Sister up. Sister absolutely refused to go to sleep with the light off. And Brother positively insisted that he couldn't fall asleep with the light on. Well, he got what he deserved. There she is. She is just a crying at the dark. Now he's mad about being in the light. The next morning, the Bear family was very sleepy-eyed. "Oh boy," said Brother, yawning. "I sure don't want to go through another night like that." "Neither do I," said Papa, "and I think I have an idea that might help." There they are. They're all sleepy at the breakfast table. Papa took Sister's hand. "Come with me," he said. "Where are we going?" she wanted to know. "Up to the attic." "The attic? But it's dark in the attic, even in the daytime." "I know," said Papa, "but there's something I want to show you. Anyway, there's nothing so special about the dark. It's just part of nature. Like the light, It's your imagination that makes the dark seem spooky sometimes. But what's imagination? Asked Sister. So there they are. Papa has her hand and they're going up to the attic. So she's going to learn what imagination is. Imagination is what makes us think that Chester drawers and clothes trees are scary, mean cave creatures. I wish I didn't have an imagination, said Sister. Well, don't say that, said Papa. A lively imagination is one of the best things a cub can have. It's imagination that lets us paint pictures, make up poems, invent inventions. The trick is to take charge of your imagination and not let it take charge of you. They have to have a light to go up to the attic because it's so dark. When they got to the attic, Papa began to rummage through boxes, looking for something. And Sister just standing there, trying not to be scared. I wonder what Papa's looking for. Sister tried to follow Papa's advice and not let her imagination take charge. And it worked. A spooky shape turned out to be the shadow of some old tools. What looked like a giant was really just some piled up furniture. Here it is, said Papa. My old nightlight. The one I used when I was a cub and had a little trouble falling asleep in the dark. Sister couldn't quite believe that her big, powerful Papa was ever afraid of the dark. Oh, sure, said Papa. Most of us are at one time or another. And look, there's his nightlight, and it looks like a treehouse, doesn't it? A little bit. That's very cool. How about reading the rest of the case of the crying cave? Sister asked Brother later that day. Are you sure you want me to? Said Brother. Sure, I want to know how it turns out, she insisted. And there they are. They're going back to reading the book. When it turned out that there was nothing very spooky about the terrible wailing noise, it was caused by wind blowing across an opening in the roof of the cave, like the noise you make when you blow across the top of a bottle. Sister was a little disappointed. And that night, when she and Brother were all settled down in the cozy glow of Papa's old nightlight, she said so. I was pretty disappointed by the way the case of the crying cave ended. Got the little nightlight going. Why? Asked Brother. Why would you be disappointed? Because, she said, I was hoping the wailing would be a really spooky, scary monster. And she leaned down from her bunk over Brother's and made a spooky, scary monster face at him. Cut that out, said Brother. Then Sister went right to sleep. But Brother lay awake for quite some time, listening to the owl hoots and thinking that maybe he'd had enough mysteries for a while. It looks like the wind is blowing through their window and making a wailing sound. And Sister's sound asleep. I hope you enjoyed this story. I'll be back soon again, but in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope you're all warm and snuggly in your bed, in your pajamas. I love you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, baby.